Sheriff's Deputy Blake Kilpatrick gets pay without work. Meanwhile, 240,000 federal workers in faraway places are expected to work without pay, as something is happening which is so astounding that I'm asking my colleagues here at the radio station to pinch me. Am I sleeping? Am I awake? Think about it. You have closure of the federal government and no border wall. David Toulis, the classical liberal, is in heaven. He's in heaven, or maybe he's just dreaming. Maybe you and I are thinking that, well, I'm having this wonderful dream, and I just want to roll over and think about it some more. And I'm hearing the alarm clock going off, and no, I'm just gonna doze on in a rapture. David Toulis here, 92.7 Nuke Radio. 927 FM, I should say, Nuke Radio. and I am in a state of suspension all day today here on the show, the David Toulis Show, because maybe we'll hear a gong when Sean Hannity comes on after the CBS News at 3. And the good people are back in charge. We have the continuing renewal of the strip mining of the people and the country and its environment, reassuring us that all is okay. And that we have nothing to worry about. We just need to continue watching the press, watching the media, and being excited about the doings in Congress. The latest details on investigations of the president's friends. When you think about this, another thunderclap. We have thunderclap after thunderclap, and the markets, of course, are in jitters. And I'm glad a dear friend of mine whom I strongly persuaded to sell a month ago, and I need to call that friend and say let's see, let me check on Google Finance where your assets are after you sold. And I'm sure having sold when he did, he'd already lost $10,000 in a small investment, and probably would have lost another $10,000 if he were remaining in that economy now. David Toulis. But think about what Trump has done. He's doing us a favor, he's not terrified at all that the government is shut down for a few days. Not at all. He knows that the people, his supporters, and probably many Democrats who are running small businesses, worried about their taxes, worried about regulations, they're all secretly breathing a sigh of relief, though they have made commitments to the party of death and to the party of social welfare. And you think the ending of involvement in Syria with a couple thousand, and what seemed to be firmed up reports in the past day over withdrawal of half of the federal yahoos in Afghanistan, the federal troops there, 7,000. That he is damaging the Congress, and he can, the president decides where the wars are. He decides where to send troops. It is not really an executive function. It is a legislative function to determine where wars are and then to fund them. But here, by cutting back on this military adventurism of the American empire, he's attacking the purses, the billfolds of the people in Congress, because their private wealth comes from government contractors. Their campaigns are strongly fueled by government contractors, and those who profit whenever the Pentagram and the General Mattis's and his successors are there making plans for war, for bombings, for drone strikes on Bedouins in the desert, having their herbal tea around a large table in a tent, suddenly obliterated by a flash of a drone. They're planning all these things and doing them, all this routine, all right, for our freedom, right? It's all being done for our freedom, we're supposed to believe. And here, President Trump, if he does what he said in the campaign to be a non-interventionist, he is doing a good thing. He is doing us a service by getting us out of morally perilous, militarily dangerous, and unwinnable situations. We've been, the good people have been in Afghanistan for 17 and Iraq for 17 years. And a war that doesn't end, and it's cost how many trillions of dollars? How many trillions of dollars? Well, I just pinch me. Maybe I'm just saying things that really are amazing, but and seem to be true for now. They're true for this small window. Maybe if we tilt our heads in a certain angle, we can see how it's really amazing. The closure of the government and the end of the prospect, at least for now, for today, for maybe the next couple hours, of this insane ban on free labor, the free movement of people, the border wall that the president is wanting. But if he can savage the private incomes of Congress people who love war, who profit from war, who profit from the military-industrial complex being useful to our country, right? Being useful to our country and shedding freedom all around, pouring freedom out upon people in far places. We are better off for it. My argument is that you should love your neighbor and buy local. And my report rarely touches on these matters, but there is this sort of congruence or confluence, I should say, of events in the national capital. The shutdown, the pulling out from two countries where we have no business, and it all seems rather grand. But in my mind, these details are just kind of by the way. They're not really, given the work I have to do here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County. These are just they're kind of almost amusing details. And I'm not staking my too much of my thought process on trying to understand it all, getting all the actors right, reading detailed versions of these accounts in the Wall Street Journal, which I do get that the print edition that my mother now lets me have it first. It's her subscription. She's my neighbor, and I get it. She doesn't notice that I give her a day old one. And I did read a long think piece yesterday, standing there in the kitchen as Jacob got the fish patties out, and so David told us here the argument is near is better than far, small is better than big, simple than complex. Make sure you like us on Facebook. We're still there. We're still on FB. Personal is better than corporate, and physical is better than abstract. We're brought to you by Nuganomics.com, our chief sponsor. I'm also the blogger on Medium, just trying to find my way on Medium, which is a much bigger venue. It doesn't have news tracking, though, which I'm trying to find a place where I can publish my material and have it be found on the internet. It's hard to find me on the internet, even though you may Google keywords that are right up my story's alley. It's just hard to get found because I'm not I don't have the news. I don't calculate the news sufficiently to get that tag and show up in the news feeds. But it is a local-centric press platform that's a complete nonprofit. Okay, it's entirely nonprofit platform. The blogger with the biggest pen here, David Toulis, the smartest guy with a bow tie. And I think I've got a good get up today, though Jeanette did not pass on it. It's my blue and red striped tie with my black jacket. Now, I would like you to give me a call. What do we need to make of the whole wastewater treatment authority proposal shot down in a denial of a rezoning bid on Wednesday in the county commission? What is your take on that? I don't think in a way I've not really heard enough of the no sides. I've read some of the press accounts of the opponents of this $45 million plant proposal. And I've gotten a lot of the arguments for it because in the 5-hour county commission meeting 2 weeks ago, I couldn't stay for the antis on their side. So maybe if you're one of the antis, I think there are at least 3,500 households that are in the anti camp who have paid, who have given word of by signature, given their approval of the anti position, and the arguments for it have been made in the commission twice, once in detail, lasting. The meeting 2 weeks ago was 5 hours long because of the back and forth questions. It is the county commission is a true deliberative body, and I think that all the members and that the mayor is there, Jim Coppinger is there. This is how government should work. The form is correct. Okay, the form is correct. There is a right use of the vocal cords by the members who push the button, ask the question, have leave to ask long questions, have follow-up questions. Everyone has to say. Kathleen Jeter, others are there, and they are deliberative. And the public hearing is of value to them. It's not just show, and there is actual conflict. There are questions made. There are hostile positions bear their swords there. Say between Jim Coppinger and Tim Boyd, there's kind of a long, simmering hostility between those two elected officials. It's a real deliberative body. So, what do you make of this wastewater treatment plant being shot down for now? The number is 800-8949. That's 800-8949. And that's if you're in Red Bank. Otherwise, it's 800-8949, 800-8949 to get on the show. We'd love to hear your take on it. Now, my analysis is one that really sort of, you could say it has such a long-term perspective that it's of absolutely no use. And that is the perspective of that sort of rejects the short-term thinking and the short-term budgeting for these public works projects that don't account for the out-year costs. And those out-year costs are coming home to roost, and they are making themselves evident in places such as Detroit. Detroit is not an anomaly, according to the strongtown.org perspective. It is simply early, and all the infrastructure breakdowns in the town, for example, that has the polluted water. There also, you have too much building and not enough accounting for the repair costs of water systems. And this is David Tulis, caller. What does my other listener need to hear?
David, Dean Morehouse, North Hamilton County United.
Yes, sir, Mr. Morehouse. Thanks for calling in. Go ahead.
Well, I was just listening to you, David, and I was on live right after the vote, and wanted to share with you. You weren't able to stay for the remainder of the meeting, but some of our initial concerns were, David, 75% of this property is in wetland, is in a floodplain or floodway. Now, there's distinctions there. A floodplain is regulated by TVA. A floodway is regulated by Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA. The site plan, they had disinfection station, their roads, their materials handling, all within a FEMA floodway. And in terms of site, the other two more issues, real important issues. They are 3,000 feet from 28.4 acres of federally protected wetlands, which are very sensitive. Wetlands emerge. You don't create, you don't mitigate those. It takes decades to form. And they're much like coral reefs in that they digest decaying organic matter and put oxygen and nutrients back into the water. The other problem, and this is where our attorney came in on Wednesday, when the dam was built and opened in the 40s, actually in 1940, TVA realized they had purchased more land than they needed. So they sold those lands back at public auction. And when they sold those lands, because they were so important for the waterways and for the people downstream, they restricted those. And within this piece of property, there are highly restrictive covenances which specifically state no sewage, refuse, or other waste which might contaminate the waterways. It further says, in order to protect the waterways and all other lands in the nearby vicinity. Our attorney interpreted
John
all
Cabot.
other land in the nearby vicinity as meaning that piece of property had a responsibility to all of the adjacent landowners and arguably everyone downstream, maybe to the Gulf of Mexico. So,
right. He said
that's.
He argued that the neighbors, the neighbors of these properties under the federal deed have apparently a property right claim that they can enforce in court. And he promised that there would be litigation by people who are neighbors of those lots that were sold or sold to WWTA, that they could claim an interest to stop this facility from being built. Dean Morehouse.
In his opinion, David, there's additional problems too. I mean, you are plotting a sewage treatment plant within a fully developed neighborhood of 3,500 homes, 7,800 people, within the target area of 2 miles from 2 elementary schools, Snow Hill Elementary School with 800 kids, and Ottawa Elementary with 1,200 kids. We all know that the very young and the old are most susceptible to illness, so you're putting at risk those 2 populations. The other
well, let me ask you this, Dean Morehouse. Hold on just a second. Let me ask you this: the Mark Harrison and the engineer who spoke for on behalf of Scott McDonald, who spoke on behalf of the utility, said there are all kinds of schools. There's UTC and many other places, insurance companies, and retirement homes and the like in very near proximity of Moccasin Bend downtown. They have no problems with anything emanating from the plant there. So what is the concern here? How can that argument wash if we have an existing wastewater treatment plant at Moccasin Bend that doesn't have these environmental problems or complaints?
Well, within a sewage treatment plant, David, you have solids and liquids. First step is separate the solids from the liquids. The solids have to be transported somewhere, and they had never indicated where or how these would be transported. It had to go by one school or the other. Now, if you've ever followed one of these trucks full of solids, it's unpleasant. So we contacted the Murfreesboro plant, which is 16 million gallons per day. This is 10 million gallons. They told us there were 8 tractor-trailer loads a day of solid waste that needed to be transported to a landfill or where. Well, the other issue is the Birchwood landfill is closed. It's full. It's only open to city residents now. So where are you going to transport this solid waste? It has to come down through the middle of all.
Go ahead. Well, finish your sentence.
Of all of the residential communities, right through the middle of the heart of Ottawa, Cambridge Square, all of the new development, Collegedale, probably to Bradley County landfill. So, that is a source of contamination.
Well, let me ask Dean. This is David Toulis, and we're talking with Dean Morehouse. Dean, let me ask you a question here. The listener wants to know: is your group against growth in northeastern Hamilton County? Are you against growth? And B, if you're not against growth, where would you propose that plant be built at, and what greater expense are you willing to have the ratepayers pay for that more expensive place? Dean Morehouse.
David, there's a couple of arguments to that point. The first argument is you don't have to have a sewer treatment plant for growth. You have to have a sewer treatment plant for high density growth, apartments, townhouses, multiple story dwellings. People who move to Ottawa for its clean, pristine water, the valleys. It's not overcrowded. It's becoming so. But there is nothing wrong with 1 acre lots. In fact, some areas of the country require large 3, 4, 5 acre tracts before you can build a home. You got to have enough and ample area to do a proper and modern septic system. There's nothing wrong with that. There's also other technology available. Other parts of the country, there's a drip system. A drip system is what TBA is proposing on their $288 million facility just 10 miles north of here. If it's adequate to hold or contain a facility of that size, and there's other ways. I mean, a wastewater, there's many ways to handle wastewater. You don't have to have a sewage treatment plant.
We're talking with Dean Morehouse. Dean Morehouse, thank you very much for calling and talking with my list. Appreciate the call, Dean. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Always a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas. This is David Toulis, and we're talking about growth in Hamilton County. Jim Coppinger is for it. 3 council commission members were to.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4, 92.7 FM's news now.
A man in Sequatchie County charged in the deadly shooting of a father back in September. Paul Kaufman had his case sent to the grand jury. His alleged victim, Logan Leopard, found in a ditch on the side of the road, riddled with bullets. Leopard was a father with a toddler son. Reports say the 2 men had an argument on Facebook before the killing. Cleveland police say 2 videos were discovered depicting high school basketball students engaged in sex acts at a hotel. The videos were captured after curfew during a trip to play a tournament in Oak Ridge. Police say so far nothing illegal happened because all parties involved were underage and consenting. Criminal charges not likely. The school may still choose to punish the students. We all say it won't happen to us. Seth Cordell from Hickson won $1 million in the Tennessee lottery. He is an electrician and businessman telling the press that his winnings will act as a nice cushion for his family. Bought the winning ticket in Murfreesboro. Val St. John for Nuga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News now.
Oh, it can happen to anyone. Flat tire, overheated engine, or just a clackety-clack, and now you're on the side of the road. No worries, because Doug Yates Towing and Recovery is there 24 hours a day for you. That's right, 24-hour-a-day emergency roadside assistance. And you don't have to accept who your insurance company or your road assistance provider sends you. At Doug Yates Towing and Recovery, we want you off the road as safely and soon as possible. So they'll be there in a jiffy. Doug Yates Towing and Recovery with 24-hour emergency roadside service. Call 800-407-2371. That's 800-407-2371. Online, yateswrecker.com. That's yateswrecker.com. On Facebook at Doug Yates Towing and Recovery, LLC. Doug Yates Towing and Recovery. We don't want your arms and legs, just your toes. Doug Yates Towing and Recovery is a Nuga Radio 92.7 First Responder Friday sponsor. To our first responders, Doug Yates Towing and Recovery says thank you.
Broadcasting live to over 1 million souls in Chattanooga, the Tennessee Valley, and beyond on frequency modulation 92.7.
Jeff Styles.
25,000 watts on digital FM 95.3 HD4. Sean Hannity, CBS Radio News. David Toulis, streaming strong at NugaRadio.com. NASCAR, live on YouTube and Facebook.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
I'm always watching the Travel Channel. There was this one episode shot in the Mediterranean one night. It caught my eye. And the food, wow, definitely wanted to try some of that. Luckily, I didn't need to go halfway around the world. I found Olive Branch Mediterranean foods right here in East Ridge. East Ridge. They were telling me how the menu's made fresh daily. It's authentic and it's so delicious. Your next culinary trip, not halfway around the world. It's right here, waiting for you at home.
Visit Olive Branch Mediterranean Foods, 3992 Ringgold Road.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need AMCO Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. AMCO Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way, the Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
Hey folks, Jeff Styles here, talk radio host and infamous technophobe. But I got to tell you, this Facebook Live that Nuga Radio does, it makes sense to me. It really does. Now, we're at 92.7 on the FM dial, but really where you need to go is nugaradio.com and just do the streaming audio, 8 to 10 a.m. The first hour is mostly just me just throwing commentary on top of the news. The second hour is me frustrating and irritating you beyond all belief. nugaradio.com. Don't miss it every weekday.
Sounds good. No, I'll definitely consider it. I appreciate it.
Lots of clouds, breezy, and chilly out there for your afternoon. Lingering showers to push off to the east, though. Still a few mountain flurries and snow showers possible. Temperatures falling through the 40s tonight. Turning colder, lows into the lower 30s. More sun, much better Saturday. Highs upper 40s, near 50. A few late showers Sunday. Rock City's Enchanted Garden of Lights has sweet treats, dazzling views, the world's largest digital Christmas tree, and over 1 million colorful lights. Visit CRockCity.com for tickets and new special weeknight pricing. And I'm Sorrentine 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
Yes, the man who asks the dumb questions. That's David Toulis, the slow man. I'm the slow man. And because I am actually very slow, people think that I'm the smartest guy. And because I wear a bow tie, they say, well, they just conclude I'm the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga. And that is maybe true. I'm not sure about that, but that's what is alleged. And we argue for loving your neighbors and buying local, trying to be local-centric, trying to think that somehow because you're in Chattanooga, there's a purpose for you being here. It's not by accident. It's not by luck or chance that you're here, or even tuning into this show if you're just passing through, or from a faraway place such as Peoria. I know I have one listener in Peoria. You're here, and I would say by God's providence, and that I'll argue that that's true, even though you may not believe in God. It is true. And so the goal, I would say by God's grace, would be for you to find out what that purpose is and to make the most of your gifts to in the service of other people. Because if you do that, if you take your gifts and serve other people, you will be you'll be fulfilling God's will. You'll be a capitalist and an entrepreneur, and you'll be in the end prospering yourself and having an estate to pass on to your children and your heirs and your descendants, right? Because from you, hopefully, come hundreds of people in the future. Hundreds of people come from your loins in the future. That's what the gift of reproduction is all about. We have people who bear our names and bear maybe slightly the kind of chin we have, the kind of lips that curl around our teeth the way yours do, and the kind of ears that are typical of your family, right? That's all replicated into the future. Now we're thinking about capitalism, and it is Christmas season is upon us, and people are saying Merry Christmas, and some are guarded. They say season's greetings or happy holidays and the like. Now there's a coffee shop I want you to hear about. It's called the Mad Priest Coffee House. It's by Cook's Bakery there with the amazing regulator-defying painting of the donuts on the side of the building downtown. And the proprietor is Michael Rice, and Michael has a very unusual business model. And I want you to hear about this business model because in his conception, as far as I understand it now, in his conception, the wages that come from selling coffee and serving very, very hot, big cups of coffee there at Mad Priest, the wages are part of the profit, not part of the expense. So, Michael, tell my listener how this. Tell me if I'm accurately describing your business model, and where does it come from, Michael Rice?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty simple, David. I mean, at the end of the day, we are a product-driven for-profit business, which means that we strive to produce the highest quality of product and produce that for people to be impressed by. But at the end of the day, we believe that by being a for-profit business and being successful in that sense will truly be economically empowering for the community, for the people that we hire. So it's a very holistic model of saying we are in this together. We're not just some isolated business, and we try to impact the community through certain educational opportunities and things that we do. On an internal level, we hire certain individuals, both just people that want to really commit to something and grow with the company, but also we work with Bridge Refugee Services, and we have 3 refugees that we employ. And at the end of the day, it's a matter of investing in them as much as we invest in our product and our customers and everything else. And so it's a very holistic process to ensuring that there's opportunities to be had all around, instead of just trying to be top down and keep lining my pockets with cash.
So you're suggesting somehow here, Michael, that because you have these refugees who may not speak very good English and who have had maybe difficult past and know nothing about the coffee business, know nothing about retail, may not be the best behind the counter there, that there is a kind of a cost to that. Why are you willing to bear that cost and not just hire bright young whippersnappers from UTC or Covenant College?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely complicated, right? I mean, most of our refugees right now work in either back of house or production because of what you just mentioned as far as English and comfortability is concerned. But it doesn't really stop there. And what we try to do, that might be their entry level. But then from there, we create educational opportunities both in-house and out of house. And then we partner with certain organizations and nonprofits who are doing other things that might empower them to kind of grow. But just to give you an example, one of our production, he's actually kind of a production manager at this point. He's been with us since day one. But one of the things we've really worked with him on is electronic computer as far as learning both how to use the internet and how to kind of grow with the technology that he's never had access to or never really knew much about. And he's gone from not really knowing how to use a computer to being able to work with different things like Excel. As far as bearing the cost, it's just what we do. I don't know. For me, I'd rather invest in my people in that form or fashion than try to maximize profits, because I think that's going to be more of a long-term investment that's going to pay off in 10 years versus try to get things to pay off in 2 years by just pushing and not really investing in the people that are honestly the ones driving the business.
And even though they're in the back, they're not in the front meeting the customers. They are making it happen. They're bagging the beans, grinding the beans, sifting them. Is that what they do, Michael? Rice?
Yeah. So I have one gentleman from Sudan who's he's a production manager, and then my 2 other folks, they work at the Cherry Street location, actually in the kitchen. But what was really fun about that was one of the gentlemen there is the son of the family from Iraq that we've actually been working with for several years now, and he went to school for culinary arts. So for him to also then be able to actually put into practice what he went to school for here in Chattanooga at Virginia College, is really cool, and for him to have a place where he can really kind of shine in that aspect and continue to work with that family that we've been doing stuff with for the last 2 years. So
my listener, Michael Rice of Mad Priest Coffee, is a small businessman, and he's always so pressed for time. And here we have year end. You have year end requirements. There's payroll on Friday. He's just so hammered on his time. Why would you suggest, or how can, I guess the question is, why should he think in broader terms of reaching out and helping? How is it that your business, in your way of thinking about your business, how is it that you want to help the larger community? What do you mean by larger community, and what could he possibly think about doing somehow, getting out more and having maybe more of a charitable impulse in his operation?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, at the end of the day, one of the things I love about business in general and being able to be a part of the economy in that form or fashion, whether micro or macro, is the fact that we can all engage, whether we're fully aware of what we're purchasing. So, for example, if someone comes in just to buy good coffee, they're still participating in the things that we're trying to do and be a part of in the city, whether they know all about the programs we put on or things that we're trying to do. If they have a choice, right, and they can choose between 2 products, I would always encourage anyone to know a little bit more about what you're buying. And I think that kind of conscious consumerism is just a small part that takes very little time for us as Americans to know what we're buying and where that money's going. At the end of the day, like, that money is going to be what impacts, bigger picture things as far as how we grow as a country, how we grow as an economy. So we try to do that as much as we can by, just having those conversations with our guests and engaging with people so that they understand both the quality of the product, but also here's what you're doing by purchasing this bag of coffee in other ways as well.
Is that coffee fair trade?
Try to make it as simple as possible.
Michael Rice, is your coffee somehow fair trade origined, or what can you say about where it comes from, or whether it's organic, or how is it special? at Mad Priest.
How's our coffee special?
Yeah, does it follow? Do your theories about the people you hired? Do they also affect how you buy your product?
I mean, it's both and, right. So it's not just about the people we hire. If we bought crappy coffee and tried to do all this good work, I mean, that's not really helpful either, right? So the coffee we buy, we're very intentional with the importers that we partner with. One of our main importers that works in Latin America, they're a B corporation, which means they have accountability and things in place to ensure that they are doing the best they can to pay fair wages and buy good coffee. So we partner with the people we trust and believe in that are also doing similar things by putting those accountability things in place. And at the end of the day, we do things like purchase coffee from regions that are new and innovative to help the coffee kind of the coffee growing regions that are not as prominent as Colombia, Brazil, et cetera. So this is our second harvest year, for example, of purchasing a Myanmar coffee, which is a brand new region growing coffee, especially coffee that's never been done. And so by us participating in that, it's also helping that cycle of Myanmar increasing their production, which then increases jobs, wages, et cetera. So it's a very complex thing. Coffee is very complicated as far as how it works on the commodity market, but by buying certain beans and being intentional, all of it plays a role. So,
well, we're talking with Michael Rice, and thanks so much, Michael, for giving us a bit of Christmas cheer in the entrepreneurial world. Thanks so much from Mad Priest Coffee here in Chattanooga. Two outlets, and again, real quickly, Michael, where are your two shops?
We have a roastery down on Broad Street next to Cook's Bakery, and then we have a new shop on Cherry Street between 7th and 8th next to Burns Tobacco. That's a full cafe and cocktail bar.
Great. Thanks so much. This is David Toulis. We're talking with Michael Rice, and there you have the idea that your money coming in and going out for wages, that is your profit. There is profit in hiring someone. So think about it that way. You're hiring people like your customers are. It's important who you hire. It's important who you sell to. And these are all relational things. And in my mind, the idea of local economy is about relational economics. And you, at some point, you have people with whom you do business that you know them so well, you trust them so well, you know they're always going to give you the best price and the best service, and you don't shop the job anymore because you've got them, and you are in a way dependent on them. They are clients. They rely on you. They're helpless without you. That is. Whether your customers are people who drink coffee or who need complex repair on your mainframe, those are relational things. That's part of the idea of local economy. The number is 800-8949, 800-894-9 if you're outside of Red Bank. I spell it out for people in Red Bank because they've allowed things to go bad there. And we're hoping for a reform in Red Bank. So I always spell the number out to call. If you're from Red Bank, you are certainly invited to call as well. 800-800-8949. Now, what do we make of the whole growth story that we've had this week? And I feel that I've somehow short-shrifted the review of it. And I was wondering whether after Wednesday's meeting, and I was wondering whether my report about it was really very useful. What do you want the facts? Do you want the report, or do you want my opinion of it? And I got a little bit of flack by saying by someone who said, "Well, David, that whole discussion about what happened in the meeting, we don't care about that. Who cares about one sewage treatment, wastewater treatment plant in the North County if they don't live there? How do they care about that? What do you think about it? What's the big idea about it?" So I have to play that line of giving the news as much as I can, but also making it entertaining and hopefully edifying, but giving the idea behind it. What are the main ideas of that story? Are there main ideas of that story? Well, there are. And I'll say though, that the people arguing for and against this plant did not address the issue that I would say is important. And that would be the out year expense. And here again, my interlocutor says, well, who cares about what's happening 25 years from now or 50 years from now? That doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter, because people want to know about growth now. They want to know about odors now in their wafting over their pools and yard umbrellas and their freshly cut lawns across the standing water there in the lowlands. Which, by the way, the fact that there's standing water near this proposed site is something to say for it, right? Because it suggests it's a low area. And in fact, that is what the WWTA says is the advantage of the spot that Scott McDonald, the engineer and consultant, said is the best spot for this plant if it's going to be built. And that is the bottom in the proposed service area for it. At the very bottom of essentially a long downward slope of land. Some of the wastewater would have to be pumped up to the proposed site, but most of it, probably 95% of it or 90%, would come from above. In other words, from a higher elevation, and it would come down without the need to be pumped using gravity, right, to bring it to the churning wheels of that facility. Now, the defenders and the proponents and wastewater treatment authority itself pointed out repeatedly that we don't have the problems around Moccasin Bend that are alleged to be prospective problems around this site, the site that was shot down by the county commission. The vote was 6-3 against it, 6-3 against it, and it seems for now that the vote is against growth. And I don't. There's a different understanding of growth here, perhaps between the parties. Growth means that you have infrastructure support for more neighborhoods, more malls, more shopping areas, more schools that would be built as population left the city, right? Had effectively a subsidy for leaving the city. And that's what I think the deepest thinkers on these questions, whom I have tried to hear from, suggest is another problem, a problem that's not discussed by the Dean Morehouses and others who are among the 7,000 people and about 3,500 households that are directly affected and almost universally against having this infrastructure there. And the idea, the growth perspective that Jim Coppinger represents, and also David Sharp and Warren Mackey and Greg Martin, who all voted for the plant, right? They voted for the proposal. Is that if we want to grow, we want to have people come to Chattanooga. We don't want people to go to Bradley County. And so if we have a wastewater treatment plant that's a 15th of the size, 1/15th of the size of Moccasin Bend, and at some point it will, as it grows out, it will be a 10th of the size. Okay, so it's much smaller in this other part of the county. We'll have you won't have to ship your or pipe and pump your wastewater 30 miles. It'll go a much shorter distance here to this small facility, and for an expense of $45 million. Growth within can come, but I think the growth favored. I mean, it's good to be for growth. Okay, generally I would say yes, we want growth, but we've got to remember that these are financial investments. They are expected to create a profit. Is that in view? Is profit in view, or is loss of these structures and their payments, the bonds that have to be issued for them, and then the repair and maintenance schedules? Also, those are part of the equation of whether long-term it will be profitable or a money-losing proposition. And the opponents have all, I would say, have done Herculean effort to amass arguments from science and papers, and they've looked at reports about other wastewater treatment plants and associated problems, and maybe overlooking reports of other plants in other cities where there are ritzy neighborhoods all around them, as one slide showed from Google Maps shown by Mark Harrison. Well, here's a very wealthy neighborhood, I think in Knoxville, and this neighborhood is surrounding on a jetty in a body of water a wastewater treatment plant. So he's saying, well, clearly it doesn't reduce the property of the land. The arguments against it are perhaps in the context of this larger question that I'm raising, are, you might say, minor. Okay, they're minor, they're subjective, they're about the individual inconvenience. And the fact that Dean Morehouse says, well, there'll be eight truckloads of human poop coming by your mailbox every day. That's what he is implying, that there'll be heavy solids shipped to this place or from this place. And I hadn't heard that comment before. But again, the arguments against it are about personal inconvenience. But the larger argument, you might say, against it that hasn't been raised is the financial sustainability of these companies. They are owned by companies or nonprofit organizations such as WWTA, which is a nonprofit municipal corporation. Is this plant, with all the debt attached and the payroll, will it be sustainable, or will it lose money? And when it loses money and goes under, as at some point it will, because it will have a shelf life. It has a 50-year life or so, and there have to be millions and millions of dollars that go into the repairs of it. Think about the concrete expansion problem at Chickamauga Dam. That's taken years and federal subsidies to pay for the new lock. That's a gigantic amount of money that Chuck Fleischman and others have worked to get for that repair. That's what happens when you have these projects. They bring, according to the commentaries I've read about American growth, they bring a dime's worth of benefit of income, you might say, but they impose generally these structures, whether they're highways or bridges, shopping malls, schools, they bring a dollar in out-year costs that are not calculated by anybody. No one's calculating these out-year costs. They didn't come. They had nothing to say. These costs had nothing to say about in the NOVO, right? These dollar figures are not available for the commissioners to review, by which to say no. They said no for other reasons. Sabrina Smedley, for example, I thought she was going to vote for it, but she voted against it. She said, well, there are just too many questions about it. It's not somehow clear to me what's all this is about. So I thought that was not a very strong rationale. But there are questions, and the one I'm raising is perhaps the biggest one, and that is the financial unsustainability of such projects. They cannot be supported long term. 25 years, there's millions of dollars of repair. Where is that going to come from? And the year past that, many more tens of millions of dollars of repairs for this structure that no one is accounting for now. But this is typical of municipal growth across the country. David Toulis.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A man in Sequatchie County charged in the deadly shooting of a father back in September. Paul Kaufman had his case sent to the grand jury. His alleged victim, Logan Leopard, found in a ditch on the side of the road, riddled with bullets. Leopard was a father with a toddler son. Reports say the two men had an argument on Facebook before the killing. Cleveland police say 2 videos were discovered depicting high school basketball students engaged in sex acts at a hotel. The videos were captured after curfew during a trip to play a tournament in Oak Ridge. Police say so far nothing illegal happened because all parties involved were underage and consenting. Criminal charges not likely. The school may still choose to punish the students. We all say it won't happen to us. Seth Cordell from Hickson won $1 million in the Tennessee lottery. He is an electrician and businessman, telling the press that his winnings will act as a nice cushion for his family. Bought the winning ticket in Murfreesboro. Val St. John for Nuga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News now.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 p.m. on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Nuga Radio 92.7. Nuga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Lots of clouds, breezy and chilly out there for your afternoon. Lingering showers will push off to the east, though. Still a few mountain flurries and snow showers possible. Temperatures falling through the 40s tonight. Turning colder, lows into the lower 30s. More sun, much better Saturday. Highs upper 40s, near 50. A few late showers Sunday. Rock City's Enchanted Garden of Lights has sweet treats, dazzling views, the world's largest digital Christmas tree, and over 1 million colorful lights. Visit CRockCity.com for tickets and new special weeknight pricing. And I'm Sorenstein 12 Chief Meteorologist Pat Report.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Have a car wreck in Tennessee? Why hire an Alabama billboard lawyer for your car wreck? You'll never, ever meet that guy. Warren and Griffin work here, live here. You get to know them. You have a car wreck? Call Warren and Griffin. 265-4878, 265-4878. And let me tell you, they've got a killer thing going on right now, the hands-free Tennessee petition to save lives and make our roads safer. Put down your cell phones and just drive. Hey!
Hey, you. Yeah, you. This is your sandwich speaking. Yeah, your sandwich. And you know, you can't find me any place but the Mad Philly Sandwich Shop. Mad Philly Sandwich Shop, just off 153 on Shaliford Road. It's in the little plaza. Hey, check out these buns. Yeah, they're Amorosa. All the way from Philly. So bite me. You want a real Philly cheesesteak? Check out my meat. Throw some cheese on it and grilled onions. Oh, yeah. Now that's what I'm talking about. Only at the Mad Philly Sandwich Shop, where you'll always get the real taste of a Philadelphia cheesesteak. Plus hoagies, burgers, sandwiches, salads, fresh cut fries, tater tots, and other stuff. Mad Philly Sandwich Shop, just off 153 on Shaliford Road, right across from Mountain View Service Center. It's in the little plaza. Hey, come on, we're waiting for you here. So just shut up and eat it.
Even if you like your job, there are some things that can drive you nuts. Like the anonymous coward who steals your lunch from the break room fridge. Or maybe Tyler, the IT guy, who gives you that condescending look when you tell him that your computer is acting up again, as if somehow it's your fault. You put up with these clowns every single day. But what happens when you've had enough? That's the day you decide to retire. At least that's the hope, right? But will you be able to retire? Can you afford to retire? That's why you need to talk to Ron and Christy Adams at One Family Financial. They can't do anything about Cody, that moron who heats up fish in the microwave, but they can strategize with you on how to get the most out of your 401k or pension, how to grow your money without losing your shirt in the market, and how to help make your money last in retirement. Talk to Ron and Christy today about whether you'll be ready to retire when you finally had it with seeing Ethan walk out of the bathroom again without washing his hands. Gross. Call Ron and Christy Adams at One Family Financial, 423-710-2009, 423-710-2009.
The first responders. These are the men and women who put themselves in harm's way for us. And here at Nuga Radio, we want to do our part.
WPLZ HD4 Udawa, W224AZ Chattanooga.
Serving Chattanooga.
Broadcasting live from the center of the universe, the Tennessee Valley's most listened to news talk station.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by ZipRecruiter.
I'm Jim Chenevy. The Senate continues to wrangle with the House version of a continuing resolution to keep the government funded past midnight. The House version does include $5 billion for that border wall, something Senate Democrats say won't get the 60 votes needed for passage there. And the blame game is already underway.
The president says Republicans have done their part, passing a bill in the House that extends expiring funding and pays for his border wall.
Totally up to the Democrats as to whether or not we have a shutdown.
With Democrats taking over the House in 2 weeks, Mr. Trump calls this moment the only chance we'll ever have to get great border security.
So it's really the Democrat shutdown.
Just last week, the president said he'd proudly shut down agencies over border security. Now, with both sides firmly entrenched, he says he's prepared for it to be a very long shutdown. Stephen Portnoy, CBS News, the White House.
85-year-old Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg went under the knife today, surgery to remove cancerous nodules from her left lung. Dr. Albert Rizzo is Chief Medical Officer with the American Lung Association.
The fact that they felt she was a candidate and was able to remove what they feel are malignant tumors that have no evidence elsewhere in the body based on the scans that they did suggests that this may be an early, what they call stage 1 lung cancer. And certainly stage in lung cancer is important with regard to prognosis.
The president's announced pullout of U.S. troops from Syria continues to generate fallout. CBS's Cammie McCormick.
The U.S.-backed Kurds in Syria have been holding hundreds of foreign fighters they've picked up on the battlefield. The countries where these fighters came from have not been willing to take them back. And now the Kurds say if U.S. forces withdraw, they may have to release these prisoners, some of whom could travel home or elsewhere and launch attacks.
A major rainstorm continues to batter the Northeast, with flood warnings extended now in areas from New York through New England. CBS News forecaster David Parkinson.
Heavy rain will amount to about 3 or 4 inches of rain in some spots, particularly in southern New England. So certainly possible to see flash flooding. If you don't see how deep the water is, please don't go through it. Turn around. It's not worth the risk. during this holiday getaway time.
The Pacific Northwest is cleaning up from a major windstorm. Gusts up to 68 miles per hour knocked down trees and power lines. Jason Higgins watched as wind and water blew through a restaurant in Bellingham, Washington.
All doors were intact in front of the restaurant, and all of a sudden we seen the front door bust open and chairs and everything started rushing out the front. It was very surprising.
Britain's Christmas travel nightmare continued as London's Gatwick Airport closed and then opened again today due to a mystery drone that's been buzzing the runways. Some 700 flights were expected to move through Gatwick today. On Wall Street right now, the Dow down 183. This is CBS News.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. ZipRecruiter's technology finds qualified candidates for businesses of all sizes. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Make your Burlington store your one-stop for coats and save on all the best looks for the whole family. Anoraks, puffers, 3-in-1 systems jackets. Burlington's packed with every style, every size. Find your perfect warmth at the perfect price. Plus, stock up on scarves, hats, gloves, boots, even snow pants from the top name brands everyone loves. Up to 65% off other retailers' prices every day. Don't get caught in the cold. Hurry into Burlington today. Style for everyone.
At Walgreens, we know it's cold and flu season again, a time when all you're trying to do is get your kids out the door for school, but instead you're coughing and have a fever of 101. That's why Walgreens is minutes away to help you find everything you need, like Walgreens brand cold and flu. Along with expert care that goes beyond the pharmacy, stop in today for personalized advice and find the right relief right here. Walgreens, trusted since 1901. Now with card, Walgreens brand cold and flu is $9.99 through December 22nd. Use as directed.
So you still haven't finished that Christmas shopping? Well, you're not alone.
A National Retail Federation survey says more than 60% of us are still shopping for the right gift. Some 134 million shoppers are expected to be at it tomorrow. That's why retailers call it Super Saturday. The Federation's Catherine Cullen.
It'll be busy, but retailers are ready and waiting to serve these last-minute customers and give them a positive experience before the end of the season.
Cullen says 7% of those asked say they don't expect to be done until Christmas Eve. Within her family, there's a split.
I'm a planner. I am completely done. However, my husband's a bit of a last-minute shopper.
Peter King, CBS News.
Ford has announced another recall of the best-selling vehicle in America, the F-Series pickups equipped with engine block heaters that could catch fire. Recall affects more than 410,000 F-150s, 250s, 350s, 450s, and 550s. Jim Sheneby, CBS News.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news. Now.
The Tennessee Department of Labor says massive layoffs are coming to our area. A referendum released by a French pharmaceutical company, Sanofi, showed that 180 workers will be laid off at Chatham effective June of next year. Sheriff Jim Hammond confirmed the deputy depicted beating a handcuffed suspect was suspended. This comes after revelations that Detective Blake Kilpatrick's past is spotty. Reports say he was the subject of an affidavit in which a former fiancé accused him of domestic abuse. Sheriff Hammond told the press that if the Justice Department indicts former Detective Kilpatrick, he will fire him. The Bradley County Sheriff's Office says it's investigating after a video was released on social media showing a brutal beatdown, allegedly between an 18-year-old Deontay Ware and a 16-year-old student. That 18-year-old was arrested. Reports say he's a star player for Cleveland's basketball team. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News, now.
Lots of clouds, breezy and chilly out there for your afternoon. Lingering showers will push off to the east, though. Still a few mountain flurries and snow showers possible. Temperatures falling through the 40s tonight, turning colder, lows into the lower 30s. More sun, much better Saturday. Highs upper 40s, near 50. A few late showers Sunday. Rock City's Enchanted Garden of Lights has sweet treats, dazzling views, the world's largest digital Christmas tree, and over 1 million colorful lights. Visit CRockCity.com for tickets and new special weeknight pricing. And I'm Storm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Have a car wreck in Tennessee? Why hire an Alabama billboard lawyer for your car wreck? You'll never, ever meet that guy. Warren and Griffin work here, live here. You get to know them. You have a car wreck? Call Warren and Griffin. 265-4878, 265-4878. And let me tell you, they've got a killer thing going on right now, the hands-free Tennessee petition to save lives and make our roads safer. Put down your cell phones and just drive.
If you could wish for anything this Christmas, what would you wish for? Well,
A Saudi Daisy family wished that $25,000 in credit card debt would disappear. Well, guess who got an early Christmas present? Listen up, y'all. I'm Ben Phillips with Home Rate Mortgage. I'm in the business of saving people money. And if you want to save money around Christmas time, pick that cell phone up right now. 805-9100. You're not going to believe how much you can save. Home Rate Mortgage just cleaned an installation manager's chimney, ridding his family of $25,000 in credit cards right before Santa delivers presents. The best part is Santa's going to be a little more merrier this Christmas because this Saudi Daisy family is saving $1,100 per month, and you can do it too. So give us a call today. It's time to get on the sleigh. 805-9100 or homeratemortgage.com.
Turn a house into a home rate mortgage.
The station you hear everywhere.
Cougar Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
We are here at Nuga Radio 92.7 FM very concerned about human trafficking. Human trafficking is something that happens. It's always illegal. It's always outside of law, and much of it is done not by people who hire and steal girls away from towns in Serbia and Colombia and ship them to brothels in Nashville or Atlanta. There are other players, much bigger players, better organized, and they're funded by taxpayers. And those are called state governments. And through the system of federal statute and subsidies and programs to encourage adoption and foster families, there has built in an encrusted and immovable child and human trafficking industry, and that is called the Child Protective Services or the Child Predator Services business. It is a business, state-run business. We think of the Soviet Union having state-run businesses. Communist China has Norinco that makes rifles and chairs. Government-owned businesses that bring revenue to the state, revenue to the national government. We have that in America. We have that in the United States, and we have it right here in Tennessee. Now, there's an expert on this question. Her name is Francesca Amato. Her group is online, and you can find the web address at Punished for Being a Parent. That's Punished for, numeral 4, Punished for Being a Parent. And she has a story to tell, and from some time she's been some time ago with her son, Christian. She had an 8-month fight to get her son back as a resident of Ulster County, which is in New York. She's a whistleblower and a court watcher, has been to many hearings, many court cases, and watched how the system grinds the poor. Especially the poor are the ones most likely to be having children who are those who are trafficked by the state itself through child protective, or as she calls them, child predator services. Francesca, tell my listener a little bit about Christian. How is it that he came into notice of people who then seized him?
Okay, well, it was actually myself that it's my child, and that's how I became a best-selling author this past year, twice, actually, because of my story. I actually wrote it as it happened. I've been an advocate for now over 11 years, and so much has happened just in the last year alone. We have advocates all over the nation that we work with that are finally getting more and more attention on this, but it is exactly that. It is child trafficking. My child was not, thank God, trafficked. However, when I reported 70 cases of child abuse because judges in Ulster County were putting children intentionally into abusive homes, and other stuff was happening. We had murders of children in this county, just irresponsible court decisions. And you're going up against these administrators, they call them judges, and they're private businesses, and they call them family courts, but they're not that. So we're unraveling all the truth now. We're finding out why families hit brick walls every time they go into these pretend courts and wonder why they're not getting due process, they're not evidence-based, and why their children are forced into some kind of damage. And you're told, if you're a fit and good parent, that if you don't send them, or if you don't give them to us or whatever, that you're going to jail. And that's exactly the threat that they give you. So I filed all these complaints with the district attorney locally. I compiled tons and tons of evidence. And I'm talking from sex abuse to punches to children's head, and judges forcing them and forcing the good parent to live in a constant state of anxiety, trying to protect them. And who do you fight when a court is demanding that you do this and ordering you to do this? And then when it went through the Committee on Judicial Conduct and the report came back that it was all okay, the judges were okay for doing this, I found that all of a sudden I was supposedly in a court, not told to come to a court date, but they claimed that I was. And they gave my full custody to my son's father, who was on probation perpetually, constantly in and out of jail, constantly arrested since the age of 14, had a mandated NA, Narcotics Anonymous, and Alcohol Anonymous. You name it, he had it. And this judge actually gave my child to him and arrested me, in which he wanted me in jail for 60 days, an innocent mother who's never done anything. I've never committed any crime. I don't do drugs of any kind. I have a clean, immaculate record and a family we're actually, my sister's a best-selling author as well. We're public speakers. I do my program on a TV show. I mean, we are the kind of people my sister teaches in college. It's just unbelievable. My niece just got on the dean's list. It doesn't make sense. And I said, wow, this is happening. People thought it was just happening to poor people, or this is happening to everyone. And there's not a family right here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, that is exempt from being abused by the family court or CPS, which we call Child Predator Services.
We're talking with Francesca Amato, and she's the author of a book called Punished for Protecting. That's Punished for Protecting, and you can just Google that and you'll find her website. Well, tell me now, I want to back up just a little bit, Francesca, about Christian. What happened in the 8 months that you had a fight with him? What was it about? How did someone notice this boy and think he's in danger? What happened?
So what happened is because the father had such a bad background and he bounced around a lot and didn't hold down any jobs or anything, and was on, and is, like I said, on mandated Narcotics Anonymous, had a brother who actually was arrested for heroin dealing, and he was caught by the NARC group in Ulster, New York. That's where my main office is. When the judge gave him to him, I had no access to my child. I was treated like the criminal, the good mother. I was treated like the criminal, and he was given carte blanche to the child. The child slept on mattresses in a living room at a girlfriend's house. There was constant domestic violence going on. I'd hear the police blotter go off all the time, the alarm go off, and I'd hear the last name, and I would be just so upset. And the judge would not allow me near my child. It was a constant abuse to my family, my entire family. And my son was displaced in this awful situation. Now, the father went to jail again during this time, something unrelated to, any issues I have. I think I'm on my 11th protection order now in a row. The child just turned 11, so that says a lot. And what happened is they never protected my son, only would, quote unquote, protect me from him. It made no sense. So we had the child, and then I went to the court with a habeas corpus to produce the body of my child while he was in jail, and the judge ignored it completely ignored it. It was a full-blown retaliation.
Now, the child was not in jail. The child, Francesca Amato, the child was not really in jail. So how could a petition for writ of habeas corpus apply? That applies only when you're in jail. Your child was in jail too, because Christian?
We did a habeas to get my child, to produce the body of my child, because in actuality, they're arresting your children. They're literally arresting our kids, what they're doing. So the children are going unwillingly, a lot of times, into CPS, foster care, forced adoption, and what they do is they don't want children to speak publicly. And they only can speak by their psychologist so that they can be told what to say. Because, when we get the children, now not my son because he didn't go through foster care or anything like that, and I did get my child back the second time he went to jail. So in an 8-month period, he was in jail twice. Okay, for real reasons, not for being retaliated against, for real crimes.
You're talking about the son, your son here.
He's actually heading to prison now as we speak.
Wait, you're talking about your ex-husband? Hold on, Francesca. Hold on.
Yes,
you're going too fast. Slow down. Okay.
My child's father.
Okay.
My child's father.
Okay, but you said your child was in prison, but in a way he was you're saying when your child was in your ex-husband's care, he was effectively subject to habeas corpus, which only applies to prison.
Right.
And producing the body is you wanted the judge to bring that boy from that care of that man that a man you're describing as a malefactor, a bad dude, to the venue so that he could be looked at, right? So you could maybe have him back. Okay, so you did get him back after these terms with his father or his biological father.
And the judge was by law supposed to see us in that courtroom that day, and that judge was supposed to produce the body of my child so that I could have him back. And the judge denied all rights. But the judge was already denying all my rights from the beginning with this whole trumped up lie, foolish story with this entire, the judge had me and my son on a missing persons when we were never missing. I had a court date stamped by the judge. It was off the charts. That's what made it a bestseller, because it's so unbelievable, but it's the truth. And I am one of millions of families across the nation that this has happened to. Now, it was a little bit harder for me because as a person who's being retaliated against by that specific judge, it makes it even more impossible to get your child. So by the grace of God and a lot of hard work, I got my child back. And the second time he went to jail, I got my child back, thank God. What I did is I exposed the judge to the point where he had no choice but to give me my child back.
Well, let me ask about...
And we have different solutions.
Let me ask you, Francesca Amato of Punished for Protecting, about your comment about the courts being private businesses. How did in New York? Now, I don't know about Chattanooga or Tennessee, but how is it that it's a private business? Is it these are for-profit businesses? Are they charities dressed up as courts? How do they get their authority? Do judges adjudicate or do they administer? And if they're administering and not adjudicating, then your rights really don't apply. Among private parties, rights are things you assert vis-a-vis actual government, but against private parties, your rights are not as easily defended. They're not as easily defined. And maybe that's why they didn't give you due process, because they're not real courts. They're just these businesses. So what can you tell me about the private business angle on this story? I don't get that.
That's correct. You actually summed it up, because if you look up Dun and Bradstreet, you will find that they are Dun and Bradstreet numbers because they're actually private businesses. David Jose is somebody that is teaching this all over the internet right now, all over social media. And we've proven it over and over again. They're 501c3s. They're quote-unquote nonprofits.
They're charities.
They're taking taxpayers' money. Yes, exactly. They're taking just destroying families. It's federal funding of all sorts. Some people say, 4D and 4E, but there's a lot of different elements to that. And they're just stealing money. So they see you as dollar signs when you walk in. That's why there are no juries. That's why our Constitution is violated every day in the court. And then they'll use the Constitution against you, and they'll pretend they're doing something with our Constitution under a misrepresentation or a misinterpretation of the Constitution.
So the family court system,
here and there to make it look good.
We're talking with Francesca Amato. So what you're saying, it sounds like, is the family court system somehow is allowed to run parallel to constitutional government in your state and probably in ours. It's not unconstitutional. It's just sort of non-constitutional. It's sort of outside the scope of it, and that's because it's a private.
Right.
Oh man. Okay. So it's a
private. And they're not a court of record. They're not a court of record, and that's why they take in general hearsay. So if someone comes in and says someone punched me in the head, they'll believe that if it's going to be for the benefit of the court to steal your children in some way, to keep you fighting to protect them. But on another hand, if you bring in evidence of, say, your car being punched by somebody with a police report and, other things to verify that, they'll ignore it. They won't put it into evidence. They'll deny it. Or if they ask you a question, they'll scratch from the record, the quote-unquote record. I say that facetiously, but they'll scratch it because they don't want it. They don't want you to be able to, quote-unquote, appeal it, which we can get into that, and that's another joke by itself.
Well, let me ask you now.
It's a very alarming system.
My listener, Francesca Amato, is very glad that you're here with me on the David Tula Show at Nougat Radio. By the way, we're live on Facebook. We're still there, still on Facebook at Nougat Radio, and live, of course, on YouTube. And you go to nougatradio.com, and you can hear all of our shows live, whether it's Jeff Stiles in the morning with our news crew, or Sean or Marie Mott at 11, or Sean Hannity at 3, just after the David Tula Show. The listener's question is suddenly there's a sense of alarm. And what I want you to do in the next couple of minutes is, what are the things he needs to know or she needs to know about defending yourself, preventing that child from being taken in the first place? Or what do you do? How do you assert your rights at the very beginning of this process so that it doesn't absorb your whole family and ruin your life for 5 years or 10 years?
Right. Now, just to let you know, my case is very different because my case, I'm a very outspoken advocate, and I have exposed so much, so he targeted me. Okay, so mine is very different. However, I am out there teaching everything we can possibly teach families to protect themselves and also to build them up as a fearless army, because we're going to have to do this. If we don't do this, this has just destroyed the very fabric of our country. Our families are all we are. So we can fight for every other supposed right in this country, and we're never going to get anywhere unless we take the axe to the root of this issue. When we stop this, you're going to start seeing everything else fall into place. When families can be protected under God, we can be protected of all of our civil liberties and all of our rights and everything that we've been founded on and everything that we hold dear. When they can just come in your house and take your child but not your TV, we got a big problem. So we train them. We have boot camp classes 3 to 4 days a week on what's called Zoom.us, which anybody in the nation can get in. They don't even have to leave their house to learn. And we teach everything, and we're getting all kinds of kids back from what we're teaching. And we're giving them tons of options. We're teaching them what to do. So if quote unquote child predator services shows up at your door, they don't even have to come on your property. And you have to know your rights. No warrant, no entry. Just basic things.
That's point number one.
How to conduct yourself.
No
Very
warrant,
important.
no
how
entry.
to conduct yourself.
So again, you mentioned, I didn't quite hear what you said. You mentioned like a little class that's online. Say something quickly about the class and give the address for that. And is there a time for that? My listener could join you?
Yes. It's Eastern Standard Time. It's 7:30 p.m. and it runs 3 to 4 times a week. We have all kinds of instructors. Matter of fact, Robert Slavin did a wonderful event in September called For the Children, the number 4 for the children. So we have an education panel from that teaches. So they're all expert instructors. I believe you named, he hasn't actually taught in there himself. He did teach in Washington, D.C., but John Gentry being one of them on the ed panel. Wonderful people, wonderful, educated, brilliant people that know our rights. But we have people like that teaching the classes. I have Don Rothstein, he was a seasoned father of this movement that teaches about Title 18, Section 241 and 2, and something that we're approaching applying right now, that these bad actors will be arrested for their crimes. But you can take these classes by going to my website, punishthebeingAparent.com, and there's a training section, and actually in the membership section, you can read and definitely register so you can get in.
We're talking with
and
Francesca.
Learn everything you can possibly learn.
Yes, exactly. Learn everything you can possibly learn. This is David Tulis, and we're talking with Francesca Amato. She runs an organization called Punished for Protecting. That's punished and the letter 4, punished for protecting. I've just gotten word from Jeff Stiles. There's a bit of news that you might want to know about downtown. There's a lockdown at Erlanger Hospital. There's a lockdown at Erlanger Hospital, and the word is there is a some kind of shooter event or care or concern there, not active shooter, but a shooter event. So there's something happening with a firearm, and a lockdown has been directed for you, our listeners who might need to know that, at Erlanger Hospital downtown. In fact, I was there just this morning with my mother in the medical Erlanger Mall. And this is David Tulis, and hang on a second. Francesca Amato, thanks so much for calling. Appreciate the information. I hope my listener will contact you for more details.
I appreciate you having me on, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. That's been Francesca Amato, and this is David Tulis. We are going to be on the phone in just a minute for details as they are available to us from...
Good afternoon, David. It looks like there is a possible shooter in downtown Chattanooga at Erlanger. We're going to get details on that in a couple of seconds. If you're in the area, please do avoid it. Please actually drive away from it and let the police do their job. We're getting minute-by-minute breaking details on the possible, we don't know if it's an active shooter or a possible shooter, and there's a difference. An active shooter is someone who's actively shooting, and a potential shooter is someone that has caused the threat. And I think that we have on the line, Jeff is on the line? Yep. Okay, we'll let Jeff take this. Okay. Jeff, what are you seeing? We dropped that line, and we're working on getting that line back, and we're sending reporters to the scene right now, down to Erlanger, to get this fully covered regarding a possible, at this point, shooter and not active shooter. Our recommendation is obviously avoid that area so the police can do their job and get in there. If you're there, leave the area and stay tuned to 92.7 for complete breaking news on this story. We have Jeff Stiles right now, who's about to go on the air with David Toulis.
Okay, Jeff Stiles, David Toulis here. What can you tell us, please?
Well, what I can tell you is probably somewhat old information at this point, but I'm already well out of town on my way to go see my family. But I have so many friends and folks that are down at Erlanger, and I was beginning to hear a little buzz that there was some kind of activity going on. And so I was assuming that the folks around the hospital were probably wondering what was happening. And they did have it locked down, not locked down like as in there was an active shooter on campus or shelter in place, but they had kind of a swift moratorium on anybody going in and out that wasn't an emergency. And I think it came from a phoned-in threat. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure it came from a phoned-in threat or several from somebody that they're kind of familiar with, somebody that they've obviously had issues with in the past, and they know who he is. But if there's any kind of extra blue lights or security, or if anybody's got down there, somebody down there that's kind of freaking out, it's probably nowhere near as bad as it might seem. When you hear that a place has been locked down in this day and age, it freaks everybody out. But they know who the guy is, and they've got a intensive search out for him. I don't think he's on the grounds, but if you have somebody down there who either can't get in or can't get out, they were just going for visitation or day visit, an inpatient thing. That's what's happening. Is they're taking extra precautions because you never can tell. An irate person with a bill they think is too high could go, nuts.
So let's recap this, Jeff. We don't, it looks like, have a shooter on the scene or an active shooter, but it could possibly be someone that called in a threat.
He was threatening to become one. That is the best. That's the best that I could take away from it, was that he made active threats either to somebody in person or by phone, and said that is what he was going to do. But yes, nobody actually on the grounds, armed, no shots fired, but a rather impressive police presence. And I think they pretty much know exactly who they're looking for. So it may very well be that they're just taking precautions, maybe finding him at home or trying to catch him somewhere in between. But that's the activity that's going on around there right now. I don't think I'm speaking out of school here. They did get, a lot of the offices, they've moved people on out and called it a day just to get them out of the way. So I would say it's just, emergency situations and totally required personnel right now, and probably a lot of people freaking out, but it doesn't seem to be anything that they cannot and are not able to control like this.
And where exactly is this? Because the Erlangers are all over the place.
I was going to say, this is at the Erlanger main campus. This is not at the new Children's Hospital. This is, the main campus. Yeah, trust me, I've spent way too much time there over the last couple of years. And, you can get turned around in a heartbeat, but the two main buildings, the mall, the actual hospital itself, they kind of.
I think we dropped Jeff. Oh, here he comes. Okay.
Yeah, I think just the foot.
Okay,
or whatever. That's what is being affected.
Okay, that's Jeff Stiles from Nuga Radio 92.7. This is about a possible shooter, but not an active shooter. Somebody that allegedly called in a threat to the hospital. So if you're down there seeing all the police activity, don't get worried at this point, because this does not look like an active shooter situation. We don't have all the details in. We really don't know. This is basically hearsay. And as far as we know, someone called this in. So we'll keep you posted on this. We have reporters heading to the scene right now. If you're in the area, please don't be rednecking. Let the police do their job. Jeff, do we have any idea of this person's name, where he's from? Has he called in a report like this before? Do we have any details at all on this individual?
No, I do not know, and neither did any of the people that I talked to, because it kind of was a flurry of activity, simply because I actually had business to conduct by phone, and it got kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, I can tell you this: in the 4 surgeries that I had to have on my leg 2 summers ago, the last one I had to lay there and listen to what was a very bizarre exchange in the nurse's station. I could not get up. I couldn't leave my bed. I had stuff coming in and out of me, and it turned out to be one of the guys that was in a room near me, and he was just having a psychotic episode. He was probably a dependent, user, and was coming off of something, and it was absolutely killing me not to be able to take action. I called 911. They were aware of it. The staff was completely professional. They stayed calm. I could hear them talk this guy off the ledge. I mean, there are just a lot of folks out there who, it's not illegal to be crazy in the United States, but it is illegal to make threatening, phone calls or personal face-to-face threats of violence, and you've got to take those seriously. So, no, I don't know who it is, but they do. They know who the person is.
Jeff Styles of Nuga Radio 92.7. This is Mike Steele. Activity going on at Airliner Hospital, which means they take precautions at this time. No one in, no one out. The police swarm the area with overwhelming force. Better safe than sorry. If your loved one is in the hospital, don't panic. Don't freak out. Don't think there's an active shooter in there. This appears to be a call-in threat, and they appear to know who this is. Now, we're going to give you further details because our reporters are on the way, and I'm sure Jeff will also keep us posted. Jeff, do you remember a time when this has happened before in your experience in Chattanooga?
And as far as I know, at the hospital, I can't think of a time. The schools clearly have to, that they have to basically come out right off the bat and tell people, because the parents are going to be so concerned. And you're right. Nobody should be rushing down there. That's just going to complicate the situation. But, take the mall, for example. Something like this could happen at the mall, and we would never know about it unless they decided to tell us or the news stunk out, because they have their own, security. I can't think of a time that has ever happened at the hospital, but, we've seen less rich targets gone after for a very poor reason. And again, I think this guy may just have a bone to pick. He's picked it already, but I don't think my gut feeling from talking to folks is that I don't think there's a true danger right now, but yes, they're not going to let it get there. So, there's been a lot of negative things said about law enforcement across the country and locally, but by God, when you're in trouble, you don't call a hippie, and they know what to do. And so I think that's what's happening.
Jeff Styles, Nuga Radio 92.7. This is Mike Steele. And I think, Jeff, this time of the year, we tend to let our guard down because it is Christmas time. Fortunately, the kids are out of school. Could you imagine if we were dealing with the traffic of the children being in school? What a nightmare that would be. But Jeff,
my God.
As you know, most of us...
CSAS? Are you kidding me? That would be horrific. Because I had kids that went to CSAS, and it gets backed up pretty quick. And you go flying through there, you're going to get the gnarled finger and the whistle of doom, and probably a blue light behind you pretty quick. So I think, if the guy had to time it out to go off his rocker just for a little bit, and he may be totally harmless, but they can't take that chance right now. But I just know that they're moving people out as they can, and there's probably excess activity going on. And at this point, I am actually fairly well out of town, but it may already have been handled. But I have a feeling, you'll be hearing about it by the time the evening news cycle rolls around.
Yeah, and we have reporters heading to the scene. And if they're moving people out, Jeff, I have to question this because everyone here has concealed carry permits. And one thing we're taught in class before we get that is situational awareness.
Always be aware of your surroundings. One thing that concerns me, Jeff, is in moving people out, that tells me, and I'm just thinking out loud here, could this be a possible bomb threat?
Bomb, I did not hear. It was my take on the situation is that he made personal threats or general threats to persons that worked for the hospital, that he was going to take it out, whatever his anger was. And again, I am a little bit on a thin limb here, but I do believe it was firearms that were involved. It was a pretty basic nutcase job. Somebody who just lost it. I have a permit to carry and still have a couple of firearms, even though I still have a couple of more to get back from the local constabulary. And yeah, that is one of the, I remember when Sheriff John Cupp was in office, he was adamantly against it because he was afraid that meaning citizens would draw down on what they could see was the bad guy before the police could arrive. And then the police would arrive and they'd have no idea. I don't think anything like that is even beginning to happen.
Well, that's
one person tell me that there were some officers just sitting at an intersection that looked like they were just on super alert, that they were looking for the person.
Yeah, and obviously we don't believe that. Everyone that can carry should carry. But by the time the police get there, they're ready to bury you. They're not there to protect and serve you. They're there to protect the interests of the municipal corporation. That's what they're chartered to do. Jeff Styles of Nuga Radio, 92.7. For anyone just tuning in, Jeff, can you quickly recap what we've been going through here for the past 15 or 20 minutes?
Basically, it just boils down to this. There is a very disgruntled person that Erlanger is not has made. He crossed a line, or he crossed a couple of lines and made some threats. And so they basically sort of started monitoring the doors and didn't let a whole lot of folks in and didn't let a whole lot of folks out until they felt like they had control. And the last I heard, it was still in that scenario. They were not in any court. There was no active shooter. And they're trying to find the guy. They have him identified. I don't, but they're trying to find the guy, make sure that he does not carry through on his promise. He may have been on a toot. He may have been drinking moonshine. He may be passed out somewhere right now, or he may be heading down there. But I don't think anybody should be overly worried, to be frank.
Okay, thank you. Jeff Styles of Nuga Radio, 8 to 10 a.m. This is Mike Steele reporting on the activity taking place around Erlanger Hospital. Reporters heading to the scene. We will keep you updated here at Nuga Radio 92.7. Jeff, thank you again. Merry Christmas as we hand this back off to
Merry
David.
Christmas.
All right, thank you, Jeff.
And this is David Toulis. And this is David Toulis. We're glad you're tuning into our show here. We are hearing about doings down in the city. I was there just this morning in the medical mall with my aged mother, my aged relative. We had a very tranquil visit. She met with Dr. Allison Goddard at UT Erlanger Dermatology for a little bit of personal care that she got, and we parted ways there. I had a family friend take her back home. All very tranquil. Slight rain there this morning, a little gloomy out there. And it seems from Jeff Styles' report that there's a man with a very bleak heart as well, who is saying things and making statements, maybe online, maybe by phone, maybe by email, maybe in person. And there is a reaction by the administration of the hospital, the security office taking the lead, sort of taking over the administration of the hospital in such circumstances. There is a police interest which rises to the very top and sort of fills all fills the moat with water, if you will, and trying to make sure that no harm comes to anybody by someone who, as Jeff Styles suggests, may have been in some kind of a psychotic outburst or some kind of episode. There are many people like that, and it is a concern of observers in the press, such as Nuga Radio here, 92.7 FM, that the police function, which is a natural function in society. It has to be there. There has to be a what I would call rather a peacekeeping function. It has to be there. It's part of the way that human society accounts for the fall, and that would be when there are malefactors, when there are robbers or rapists, or someone who's beaten someone else, or knifed someone, or stolen goods, or passed a fraudulent financial instrument, or used a stolen credit card to purchase goods at Walmart. These are all offenses that have to be accounted for, and here we have the police function, which is to seize these people. And if there's someone who's making statements projecting forward, suggesting that they are going to do some evil in the future, then you have the peacekeeping function, the police, the Chattanooga Police Department, and the Helmand County Sheriff's Department leaping into action to try to prevent that, right? And we have we have this function, and so the Chattanooga Police Department and possibly the Sheriff's Department in backing up, or at least covering for the CPD, they're in suddenly large numbers to look out for the benefit of all. And we have people who are not in their right minds. They are they're troubled people, you could say, troubled in their spirits, troubled in their even in their brains. They have imbalances. Many people are damaged from opioid use. They're damaged from prescription abuse. And school children, of course, are made suitable to that almost common custom among adulthood, and that is by routine use of mind-altering drugs in the public school system. So if you are traveling about and have errands to run, avoid for the short term, maybe for the next few minutes, avoid Erlanger Hospital, the main campus, where there has been, as we've been hearing from Jeff Stiles, who got a bunch of calls as he was traveling in his car, a bunch of calls from people saying, "Hey Jeff, what's happening at Erlanger?" Or "Here's something I'm hearing that's happening at Erlanger." And we just got off the phone with him, and he says that there is a shooter situation, which again can be as vague as a threat to shoot, or someone on campus who may have had a gun, violating the notice on the doors that say "No firearms herein," and may have said something. We don't have details right now, and you can be sure that by the time the evening news cycle rolls around, that there will be details for you regarding some incident at Erlanger Medical Center here, operated by the County Hospital Authority. And the name is David Toulis. I do thank you for tuning into my show, the David Toulis Program. We have been doing tranquil and sort of tedious things today, dealing, for example, with child abductions by CPS. CPS is often on the buildings. You'll find the name, and on the placards outside of important doorways in state offices, you'll find the term Child Protective Services. But the better handle might be, as we're watching trends of human trafficking, Child Predator Services, and that is a growing area of press interest. And we've been talking about that. So here we have a bit of news intervening in our discourse. The number, by the way, is 800-8949. That's 800-8949. If you're down in the Erlanger area, I would love to hear from you. Please call in, give me a quick report of either the traffic, if there's a traffic jam, if it's gotten that bad, please let me know. And what's the hubbub going on in the parking deck, right? Are there things, if you're just there, you're just arriving, what's happening in the parking deck? Well, let me know at 800-8949. If you're in Red Bank, the numbers, again, to spell them out, are 800-800-8949. And that is the call to get to the board here on the David Toulis Show, and to all of our other shows as well. Of course, at 11, about the time these things may have just started crystallizing in the consciousnesses of the staff at Erlanger, we have Marie Mott. Marie Mott every day here at 11, who loves her listeners and is just a dynamo of analysis, a dynamo of action. Action in favor of sometimes forgotten cause, and that would be justice, the cause of justice, right and just treatment, equitable treatment. That's every day right here at Nuga Radio at 11 o'clock, the Marie Mott Show. And we are glad that you're tuning into the program. We preempted the CBS News at the we had a local newscast at the bottom of the hour. We do thank you for tuning into the show. There is word about our hostage situation of a different kind. Now, the word hostage is not connected to the Erlanger flap of this early afternoon, but there is a kind of hostage situation at the city attorney's office, and that is a letter of inquiry went in 3 days ago to Keith Reisman, the deputy city attorney, and the letter asks a question about the law, and you might say it's just a quibble about the law, but it's a single question about Title 55, and when did the General Assembly apply that title to private people traveling in their own conveyances on private business and not for profit and not for private gain? And then the follow-up question to that is, if you say it didn't apply to them, it did apply to them, well, then the question is when. That question is not going to return, I'm afraid, and I have the door has been locked, and the question is not allowed to leave the premises right now. And it had to spend the night there and lying on 3 office chairs that didn't have badly designed armrests. 3 office chairs, and it lay there in the conference room. And it did get a slight breakfast, a meatless breakfast of toast, and a somewhat lukewarm coffee without half and half in it for breakfast by the city attorney's office. So that question is down there in day 3 of a situation which I think it may be a hostage situation. That question will not be able to emerge to liberty, and so we might know whereby the law was changed somehow, destroying the rights of the people. This is David Toulis, and we just a moment ago heard from Jeff Stiles, who's the man with myriad contacts, a man whom everybody knows. He's on our station every morning. Jeff Stiles, the Fred Show, and the report from him is that there has been a shooting situation of some kind, probably not concrete, but probably just in the realm of digital threats or messages from some disgruntled person. And the police were being called in, and there was at least a partial lockdown or intensified surveillance of entryways and exit ways at Erlanger Medical Center, the main campus downtown. So that is something that may already have been resolved down there. We don't have fresh information. If you're in that area and you're got your car radio on, or you're tuning into us on your smartphone through the TuneIn Radio app, we do have that, by the way. The TuneIn Radio app, just select Nuga Radio, and we'll play anytime you open that application on your smartphone. If you're down there and you have something to see and report, please call me. Do ring the number here, 800-8949, 800-8949. You report and the world decides. That is something we like to think about and like to talk about as well. And the conservatives, by the way, have started a GoFundMe page for the wall. And I think it's a great idea that people who are conservatives, that they want fewer people with tawny skin speaking Spanish to be in the Chattanooga area, that they should contribute to this wall. But they are conservatives, and they want, of course, other people to pay for their social benefit of a wall. The GoFundMe website, which I think as of this morning has raised $4 million. There's a separate GoFundMe page for people who are wanting to buy ladders that are 1 foot higher than the wall. That's a separate dueling free market analyses here, dueling free market alternatives for you. GoFundMe to buy the wall, and GoFundMe to buy a ladder 1 foot higher than that wall proposed by President Trump. But, I think that I have the sense that I'm in a dream today. And in a few minutes, when Sean Hannity comes on the air at 3, just after 3 after the news, a gong will sound, and I'll suddenly wake up. But think about what kind of hog heaven a classical liberal like me is in for today, at least, and that is the closure of the government, the federal government, closed down over lack of money, and then no border wall, right? Because Nancy Pelosi she is going to allow the government to shut down because she insists that wall not be built. And I think she's a bad Democrat, but she's probably right on that point. The closure of the government and no border wall, that's the thing. A conservative probably doesn't like either of those. He wants the border wall and he wants the government to continue. Conservatives love the government. They have fealty to it. They love it. But I'm glad if it shuts down, and let it be shut down for weeks. And here President Trump is, I'd say, a man of courage. And at the same time this is happening in this confluence of the seeming very double-sized headlines out of Washington, we have withdrawal from Syria, federal military people in Syria who are just military adventurers, right? They're yahoos in federal service on the federal treasury payroll through the army and the services, but being withdrawn from Syria. And then also 7,000, it's been confirmed by CBS this morning, 7,000 getting out of Afghanistan. That's very, very free market, very non-interventionist thinking by President Trump. And this is David Toulis. And caller, set me straight here, would you?
Hello?
Yeah, set me straight. This is David Toulis, and you're live on the program. What is on your mind?
David, of course she doesn't want a wall because Democrats need dependents to survive. So, yeah, let them all come over and get on some sort of government assistance and have 10 babies, and Nancy Pelosi will continue to have her job. I think what we should do is whoever builds that ladder, we should have a Gatling gun up there, and as they climb over the ladder, let that Gatling gun take care of them. Fix your own damn country. Don't come to this country and ruin it. If you don't like your country, we'll send you guns, overthrow your government, and institute one like ours. Coming here with your stupid flag of your country and spitting on ours and burning it and trying to turn our country into the loser country that you came from. Fix your own country. There's our aid.
I wish the Pilgrims had fixed their own country and not come over here, Mike. They should have stayed in Holland, where they had fled initially from England. They should have stayed in Holland to fix that country.
When the Italians came over here, they came over here to build roads and bridges and work on the railroad. It was a logical. If you're not going to contribute to our republic, you don't need to be here. And there's a logical way to enter this country. You're not going to just walk over some sort of, arbitrary line that's a border and just take advantage of our republic.
Well, Mike, you're a conservative.
That wall is going to be built. What?
You're a conservative. What do you say about the shutdown of the federal government? You really love the federal government.
I'm not a conservative. I'm a realist. You can't just walk into your house.
Okay, what about the government?
I walk into your house and plant my feet on your table and say, David, get me a beer. Come on, man.
That's a false analogy,
we
Mike.
have boundaries. There are rules. There are laws.
Mike, let me hear you celebrate. Is the federal government shutdown a good thing or a bad thing?
Where are the Christians out there taking on these families? Where are all the loving Christians You can't just walk into that country. I'm sorry.
This is David Toulis, and we're hearing Mike. And Mike, you've got the last word. David Toulis every weekday at 1 o'clock. David Toulis, Nigger Radio. We've got CBS News next, and then Sean.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
A man in Sequatchie County charged in the deadly shooting of a father back in September. Paul Kaufman had his case sent to the grand jury. His alleged victim, Logan Leopard, found in a ditch on the side of the road.